But what I understand, what I'm seeing is a big exaggeration. Because what is happening now is that the scholars, quote unquote, want to try to make Arab slavery, so-called Arab slavery or Islamic slavery. I don't know how they say Islamic. They're not calling European slavery Christian slavery. They're not saying that. Right? But if somebody anyone from the Muslim world takes a slave, it's Islamic slavery. So what you do, you indict the religion. So what they are doing now is they're pushing so-called Islamic slavery in order to turn off Afro-Americans or anybody who resists slavery to accepting Islam. That's the bottom line. And it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of people who are being confused and even policy was being shaped. And the British did it purposely. They divided the Swahilis from the people from the upcountry in Kenya and places like that, saying you're an African, you're an Arab. Okay, although the person who was supposed to be an Arab, for all intents and purposes, is an African. Maybe he has a grandfather or a great-grandfather who came from Hadramaut or Yemen or something. But for all intents and purposes, he's an African. Okay, but they say you're an Arab and you're an African. So they divided the people up. So it's like divide and rule. It's divide and rule. It's strange to me when they say the Arab Sudan and the African Sudan. Because when you talk about Arabs from the north, they are as dark as anybody in the darkest part of Africa. Many of the people from the north. So for us, for Afro-Americans, like we get thrown off when we go to Africa, man. I mean, they get thrown off by us. Like even when Malcolm X went there and he got red hair, right? And he's light skinned, or somebody like myself who's a mixture, right? So then you go over there and they say, you know, which part of you're African? But for us, we, because of racism, I mean, I am an African American. I understand that. And that's our definition. But in Africa, that's not the definition, man. When you go over, they say, like, what's your tribe? What's your nation? What's your language? That's what they're asking you. Okay? Now, Islam breaks a lot of that down, because if you're a Muslim, then people will accept you anyway. So Islam breaks all that down. But if you're not dealing underneath Islam, then you come up with this different understanding there. And our understanding here is different, because you say Arab, so you're thinking of a light-skinned person with a nose, and then the African, whatever these definition, right? This is totally opposite to what it is, man. The so-called Arabs can be anything. They can be light-skinned or they can be dark-skinned. It is not a racial group. It's not a racial group. It's a linguistic group and a cultural group. And this is a total misunderstanding. But because people do not have access to direct information from the Sudan or Africa, they just look at the people, oh, see those Arabs? They're doing it again. And you develop this stereotype. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, get them. Chuck Norris, get them. Steven, go get them. Because they're terrible, right? The Crimson Jihad. Go get them, man. Send the Delta Force and get all them Arabs. This is what is happening, man. It's stereotyping. It's stereotyping, man. And it really has a negative effect on a lot of young people who get confused when they go to Africa and find something different when they go there. I'm studying West African history. And they were saying about, in West Africa, they are talking about the Almoravids, Almorabitun. And they came in the 11th century, out of North Africa, and they destroyed the kingdom of Ghana in the 11th century. Then when you look at the records, there's Conrad and Fisher, they put out this article, they call it The Conquest That Never Was. Because when you go back and you read al-Bakri and you read the different writings of the people who recorded it, the Almorabitun, they never invaded Ghana. They assisted the king. The king stayed in power after they reached. Now, if you invade a country and defeat it, the king does not stay in power. You kill the king. The king stayed in power. And all the definitions being used by the writers of the history were not conquest. But they want to divide north from south. The Berbers in the north, the Arabs in the north, the Africans in the south. Right? In the same way, like here, the light skin, the dark skin. Okay, like we had blue vein societies in America, and you have the, in the Caribbean, small island and big island. You have all this different, things where, a person from Barbados feels like negative when he goes to Jamaica. This is a Caribbean thing for people who are there. Like, my grandmother's from Barbados, right? So you go to Jamaica and you say you're a Bajan, Okay, so where do you get this division of people? So this is what's being done to divide up people so that they cannot work together and they can't really understand what is going on because they're caught up in their division. And Africa is probably one of the biggest areas for misunderstanding and division, for the whole definition of Africa. And it goes right back from the beginning of history. As I said, you look at the ancient Egyptians. There's no proof that anybody other than Africans built the pyramids. There's no primary information. It's not until 1650 or so when the Hyksos came in that somebody came from outside of Africa and came in. And the pyramids are already built. What do the historians say? Either they say the aliens came down from outer space, built the pyramids and flew back out, or they give you Stargate in the modern version, or they say somebody who looks like Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, or Yul Brynner, they built the pyramid. Because that's racism, man. That's racism. It's racism, and it's being used to divide and conquer.